Welcome back to Paul's Tech News. It has been quite a week, and I'm just talking about the tech news here, starting with the 9800X 3D launch, which was actually good and did not involve a bunch of reviewers complaining about prices or performance, which of course meant that people bought them at a rapid pace, leaving consumers to complain about scalper prices and why we can't all have nice things. And then there's the once mighty Intel, who was unceremoniously ousted from the council, or the Dow Jones Index rather, on Friday, since they are basically poor people now with a meager market cap of $100 billion, basically pocket change next to Nvidia's 3.6+ trillion. Team Green replaced Intel on the Dow, and now Jensen won't return Pat's calls. But there was even more bad news for Intel, which I've carefully arranged charcuterie style for us to casually nibble at on today's Tech News.
Excellent!
Today's video is brought to you by Thermaltake's The Tower 600 series cases, continuing their popular lineup of vertical body design solutions with more room than ever for high-end PC builds. With support for full-size ATX motherboards with hidden connectors, side radiator mounts with room for 360 and 420mm AIOs, a dual-mode GPU mounting system, and vented side panels that easily pop off for access to cable management or the 13 fan mounts, the Tower 600 is both easy to build in and distinct in its design. There's an optional display stand and LCD panel too. For more on the Tower 600 series cases from Thermaltake, click the sponsor link in the video description. Let's start with a post-launch diagnosis for the 9800X 3D, AMD's first 3D V-Cache-enabled CPU to debut in the 9000 series, which went up for sale Thursday after reviews posted a day earlier on Wednesday. Said reviews were pretty universal in their experience. The 9800X 3D is a very good CPU. The best CPU, in fact, if gaming is the primary use for your PC, and it's not a slouch for compute tasks either, demonstrating solid uplift over the last-gen 7800X 3D. In a world where new CPUs don't always deliver next-gen performance gains, it was refreshing to see about a 10% uplift for the 9800X 3D in my 1080 gaming tests, and that's over the 7800X 3D, which was already the best for gaming prior to Wednesday. Hardware Unboxed Steve didn't even have to remain standing to deliver his review, or even sit down. He was laying comfortably on a couch as he reported that the 9800X 3D routinely outperforms Intel's 14900K and 285K by 25 to 30%, respectively. That's a lot of gaming performance ground Intel needs to make up, hopefully, at some point. Naturally, with such a positive response from the tech media and few other new sexy PC hardware components, CPUs or GPUs, to spend money on this cycle, there was a voracious feeding frenzy the next morning when sales went live at about 6 a.m. Thursday. A lucky few were able to scoop one up before product pages started showing out of stock on Amazon and Newegg, which took less than 10 minutes, and now the remaining 9800X 3D hopefuls will have to wait for reinforcements to arrive, i.e. restocks, or suffer themselves to pay the cruel markups demanded from scalpers on the marketplace. Lastly, since 3D V-Cache has proved so effective for AMD and the new flipped CCD version even more so, it's rumored that they're considering what other products it might be added to. Expanding the number of mobile implementations for laptop and handheld use seems a no-brainer, of course, and many are now expecting that the Strix Halo SoC that's been in development will sport it. But perhaps even more interesting to enthusiasts are the Threadripper rumors, with another one popping up Tuesday on the Chip Hell forums, furthering speculation that one or more next-gen Threadripper CPUs might have 3D V-Cache on every one of its CCDs, opening the door for workstation tasks that might benefit from a lot more cache, to say nothing of how cool it would be to be able to build an enthusiast workstation with a 32 or 64-core Threadripper CPU that can actually keep pace with mainstream CPU gaming performance at the same time. Just thinking about it, ooh. Speaking of involuntary convulsions, Intel might be on the threshold of complete disaster, and I do not say that with joy or relish, even the bread and butter kind. While Intel is completely to blame for the course they've taken over the past 10 to 15 years, I don't think it would benefit any of us in the PC building community if Intel suddenly stopped making CPUs and went belly up, even if it's been happening in slow motion ever since the 14nm++++ era. But here are 4 For more awful bits of news for Intel, and this isn't including the existence of AMD's 9800X3D, which, in case you missed the subtext in the opening story, makes Intel's Core Ultra CPUs look quite bad by comparison. Last Friday, though, S&P Dow Jones announced that Nvidia will replace Intel in the Dow Jones Industrial Average 30 Business Index. That is supposed to represent the most successful companies on the market, and Intel no longer qualifies. Team Blue has been on the Dow for over 25 years, but their stock dropped 54% in 2024, bringing their market cap down under $100 billion for the first time in 3 decades, and making them the worst performer on the team, so they got cut. They'll be replaced by a ringer, a plucky upstart business called Nvidia, who navigated the AI boom with aplomb and is now worth over $3.6 trillion thanks to further increases just this week. The change officially took effect on Friday, November 8th. Continuing to kick Intel while they're down, another mainstay of their success is a huge footprint in the data center hardware market. But that is shifting too. According to semiconductor analyst Shravan Kundojala, AMD overtook Intel for the first time in data center revenue in Q3 2024. This was partially caused by the success and relative affordability of AMD's competing EPYC server lineup, but it should also be noted that this data includes revenue from data center GPUs, where AMD has seen more success with their Instinct lineup in cards like the MI300X versus Intel's Gaudi solutions. Oh, and that third white line is Nvidia, just their networking revenue. Yeah, Nvidia's doing really well lately. Intel is also suffering the wrath of consumers who want to hold them accountable for the 13th and 14th gen Raptor Lake instability problems that we talked about extensively over the summer. It begins with a single lawsuit. Mark Van Valkenburg of Orchard Park, New York, filed suit in a federal court in San Jose, California, saying he bought an Intel Core i7-13700K from Best Buy in January 2023, which was after Intel knew the chips were defective. His law firm is seeking class action status for the suit, at which point other buyers could add their claims as well. Typical consumer payouts for class action lawsuits are often laughably small, but the true hope is that this might be the catalyst for some regulatory guidance that might prevent it happening in the future, he said with completely unfounded optimism. But Intel has one shining hope left. Arc! Like my neon sign, see? Which, of course, will be the savior of all PC gamers, providing an array of high-performance discrete GPU options to delight builders and keep AMD and Nvidia honest, he said with completely unfounded optimism. Or maybe things aren't so bright for Arc, as Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger wasn't too rosy on the outlook during a recent Q3 2024 earnings call. Talk of simplifying the product line, efficiencies, and having fewer SKUs is justified because they see less need for discrete graphics in the market going forward. So they're going to be focusing on integrated GPUs and not so much on the discrete stuff. Sounds good, Pat. Not that we have any reason to doubt your future prognostications about the GPU market, but Nvidia is worth $3.3 trillion right now and you guys are worth $100 billion. Scoreboard, as we used to say in our sporting days, but sure, just do Arc integrated graphics. Sounds good. Stay safe, don't innovate, and make sure you focus more on stock buybacks, drone shows, and executive compensation packages than you do on your CPUs actually working and meeting the needs of your customers. You guys are doing great. Tech Briefs, short news good. Speaking of Intel woes, not that AMD really needed to, but they launched another CPU under the radar this week, the 7600X3D, which was previously rumored, now actually for sale, and it's a 6-core Micro Center exclusive going for $300 right now. Gamers Nexus reviewed it, and it managed to take another win over Intel and prior AMD CPUs in efficiency, where it tops the FPS per watt charts. And yes, it was still faster than Intel's Core Ultra CPUs for gaming in almost every test. Mozilla Firefox is the last major non-Chromium web browser out there, and I've advocated its use many times, but the non-profit Mozilla Foundation that runs it shared some sad news this week. They've had to lay off 30% of their staff, which included eliminating their advocacy division, which fought for a free and open web as one of the company's core values. Navigating the internet's relentless onslaught of change has been challenging for Mozilla, but anyone who wants to run an actually functional ad blocker had better hope that they pull through. Let's end with a palate cleanser though, some better news. You know how cars have gotten way too reliant on using touch screens instead of physical controls for media and climate control and just about every other dashboard function there is? Well, that trend appears to be ending, or shifting at least, according to IEEE Spectrum, who calls it rebuttonization. Cars are bringing back knobs and dials, and even stoves and washing machines and the iPhone 16 are putting physical controls back in place, because touchscreens are cool, but I like the solid feel of something tactile and weighty in my hand. It's comforting, like when it has knurling. You guys like knurling? I'm really into knurling. I'm not really sure where I was going with that, but you guys get my point. So there you have it, guys. Tech news for the week. And if you liked it, maybe click that like button or leave me a comment down below. While you're down there, all of the articles I talked about today are linked in the video's description if you're interested, and you can check out my store at paulshardware.net for high-quality merchandise like t-shirts, hoodies, beer sets, my new mouse mats, and more. Channel memberships are now open. Subscribing to my channel is always a good call too. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week.